Is slicing rats in half foreplay?
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. Follow Daniel at @DStarSick on Twitter. Follow Ryan at Darth Damio on the Bluebird app. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 47 of the Horror of Babylon, where we are discussing Hellraiser. I am Ryan, and with me, as always, is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Thought you were going to have some clever pinhead retort there, but that's okay. I'm sure you've got plenty for the rest of the episode.
Maybe.
In our last episode, where we reviewed The Hellbound Heart, which is the novella that Hellraiser is based on, we went into a little bit of our background with that book, this movie, and Clive Barker in general.
Yeah.
It just, in brief, for people who maybe didn't listen to that episode who are just a fan of the movie, what's your history with the Hellraiser film specifically?
I would always see it on, like, Blockbuster shelves, video rental shelves, and I knew that, like, Pinhead was always, like, put up next to Krueger, Jason, those sorts of characters. So I rented the movie one day because I loved slasher movies back in the day, expecting something along the lines of a slasher film. And instead I got a psychosexual exploration on human hedonism. So,
and a dude slicing a rat in half while watching his brother fuck.
It was probably one of the, at the time anyway, one of the most different horror movies I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
These two movies aren't comparable, but the only thing that I can compare it to in terms of how different it was to other horror movies that I had seen would be something like The Exorcist.
There have been movies that have tried to replicate that, but it's just...
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's just like a
I think the only thing that comes close is Exorcist 3.
Exorcist 3 is pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think it personally comes close, but it's pretty good. It's way better than Exorcist 2.
I think Exorcist 3 has the best jump scare out of any horror movie.
It's been so many years since I've seen it that I don't remember.
When we get to The Exorcist, we'll cover it.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Alright, so we're going to do a little bit of background on the film. It, like I said, is based on the novella The Hellbound Heart, which was written by Clive Barker, and the screenplay for this movie was also written by Clive Barker, and he directed it. What the hell? Money-wise, it had a budget of about $1 million, and it took in $14.6 million.
Not bad.
Pretty good, especially for the 80s.
Yeah.
Since then, it has spawned 9 sequels and 1 remake / reboot / reimagining, which we'll discuss that more in another episode.
Yeah.
Those include, but are not limited to, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, Hellraiser Bloodline, and I know you're not a particular fan of any of the sequels, but is there, if you had to, out of all these movies, excluding the newest one and the original, if somebody had to watch 3, which 3 would you recommend?
Not including the original?
Not including the original, not including the newest one.
Hellraiser 2, because I think it's a legitimately good sequel. There's some goofy shit in it. But there's also some actually...
There's goofy shit in this one.
Yeah. But there's also some, like, good ideas. Like, the stuff that Clive Barker wanted to tell was sort of present in there. I'd probably say skip over Hellraiser 3 and go right to Bloodline, because that's Pinhead in space.
Jason was better in space.
Yeah. The stuff of like the behind the scenes stuff about Bloodlines is way more interesting than the actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say Hellraiser Hellworld, because Henry Cavill was in it.
Ooh.
I think it's his first movie.
I've only seen the original once when in my 20s, and then once again for this podcast, and I've seen the newest one, which I watched for an upcoming episode.
Aside from Revelations and Judgment, I have all of them on DVD.
Nice.
Yeah.
Structure and themes. First thing we're going to talk about is this film as an adaptation of the novella. Is it a good adaptation?
The changes that are made, I think, are for the better. So every once in a while, I just can't think of the word.
Words are hard.
Yeah, words are hard.
And so am I.
Through some of this movie, I was.
I'm not hard in any of this movie.
It tells pretty much the same story. It makes a couple little changes. And I think all of the changes are for the better, except maybe one thing, and I'll get to that towards the end.
I agree. I think it's a very good adaptation. Like, the spirit and the core themes of the book are there. The changes they make, I think, are logical things.
Yeah.
And I don't have any, like, real particular issues. How much of this being a successful adaptation do you attribute to Clive getting to be the writer and director?
90%. There were a few producers that helped steer him into, like, correct choices when it came to, like, actual filmmaking.
Was this his first director?
I'm, like, 90% certain.
I'll look it up while you talk.
There's also a few producers that were like, you need to make this more like an American horror movie.
It was British.
Yeah. So they were trying to steer him to make something more like Nightmare on Elm Street, as opposed to making Hellraiser. But a lot of this, like, I don't know if you've seen any of Clive Barker's games or the figurines he's designed.
No.
All the stuff in this movie is right out of his imagination.
This is his first feature-length film. He did 2 short films in the 70s prior, which could, for all we know, those could have been student films.
Yeah.
Which I should probably pause it and look up, but I'm not going to, so let's keep going.
I don't think it's that important.
So what themes from the book are best adapted in the movie?
I do think that how extreme pain circling back into pleasure is very fully on display on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just given, like, brief descriptions of the Cenobites, like you see them in their full-clad leather.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the end result. Here's how Frank's living, trying to seek out higher sensory overload. That's probably the best adapted. That taste for the forbidden. Everything with the, Julia. Everything with her and how she, like, idolizes Frank in her head.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of idealization of
she's
that forbidden
fixated.
fruit. Yeah. That's very well adapted.
And are there any themes in the movie that were introduced just for the movie that weren't in the book?
I don't know if you'd call it a theme, but with the change they made to Kirsty, you kind of have, like, this father-daughter relationship. So there's a higher emphasis on family as opposed to just the
confused relationship in the book.
And also as opposed to only the relationship between the 2 brothers and how Julia relates to them. Now all 4 of them are kind of interlocked.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd call family a theme, but
more so than in the book.
It's more so than in the book.
Yeah, and it makes Frank and Kirsty's interactions more icky. The fact that he is her blood uncle.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
So, speaking of characters, let's talk about Julia, who is played by Claire Higgins. She did a real good job of being despicable.
She did a really good job.
Yes.
I think her best performances was, like, the utter indifference towards her husband.
I know.
Like, she could act like a woman who has checked out of a relationship so well.
I know. Oh my god. In our book episode, I was critical of Larry/Rory.
Yeah.
Of not, like, picking up on his wife's unhappiness. And then in this one, it's even more so like, dude, she obviously is not into you. Like,
the best we get is, like, he has, like, one sarcastic quip about getting something himself.
Yeah.
I guess I'll get it. I was like, oh, wow, they're just a married couple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then Frank, sexy flashback Frank, is played by Sean Chapman, and then as he's credited, Frank the Monster is played by Oliver Smith.
Flashback Frank is where I'm going to comment on a dude's look, and I can go, yeah, I can see why Julie is kind of pining after him.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a good-looking guy.
He has that, like, grizzled 5 o'clock shadow, world traveled, I'm a badass kind of look.
That, like, I'm into you, but I'm not. I don't have to like try. Like you have to. You have to try. Yeah, exactly. Which I hear some people like.
I don't know if Clive Barker did the casting himself, but when I'm rewatching this, I'm like, you know what? I bet Clive Barker had a good time. Like, hey man, can you take your shirt off?
He's like, you need to step back into my dressing room and show me what you got if you want to be in this role.
I know. This is the one Julia would want to fuck.
Yeah. I'm looking to see who did the casting.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, even if he's not listed under casting, there's a chance that he like got to put his 2 cents in on like that kind of stuff.
Directors usually do.
Yeah. Sheila Trezise. Well, good job, Sheila.
Okay, she took Frank back into the room and was like, all right, take your shirt off.
And then
I will be Julia.
Clive was watching behind the double pane glass.
He was cutting her rat in half while watching.
He jumped out from out of the closet and was like,
yeah.
Gross. Gross. Okay, so not sexy Frank. Awesome. Like,
yeah. Come to daddy.
Iconic 80s horror performance. Like Monster Frank for me is up there with Pinhead. I think it's just one of the best parts of the movie.
Which is, even in the book, Frank is really more of the central antagonist.
Yeah.
That changes a little bit in this one, but for the most part, he is like the bad guy, and the Cenobites are just forces of nature that
and
people
then
have come across.
In a movie, they want to feature the Cenobites a little more
because they look fucking awesome.
Yeah, because it's a visual medium.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have such a crazy thing, you want to use them.
Exactly.
They'll jump out from the closet and cut a rat in half. And Ashley Lawrence, who plays Kirsty, is like the cutest. Like,
she's adorable.
She is absolutely adorable.
I think she is in the 6th Hellraiser movie.
I was looking at her IMDb, and she's in one of them.
I know she's in the sequel, and then she's in one other one, I think.
She is in Hellraiser 2, and
I don't know if it's the same actress, but this character
and Hellraiser 3.
I forgot she was in Hellraiser 3. Hellraiser 3 is not very memorable, I'll be honest. There is a Cenobite that has a camera for her head, though, so that's kind of funny.
She's also in Hellraiser Hellseeker.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So she's in 4 of them.
Okay. Adorable little girl next Dory.
Yeah.
Dory the Explorer.
Lohissimo, we should end all of our episodes by singing Lohissimo, we did it. Dun 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 dun. We reviewed the book and we made some hot takes and dun dun. Yeah. Maybe not.
I do think that she kind of looks like she could be oh god, is it Rory in this movie or is that the book?
I think it's Larry in the movie.
It's Larry in the movie.
And Rory in the book.
Does kind of look like he could be her daughter.
Yeah.
Just like the age gap wise.
And of course, our big complaint in the book was that the character's fine, but like her relationship to Julia and Rory is confused. Like, is she's Rory's ex? Is she's Rory's like best friend who is a girl? Is she?
She seems kind of into him, but it's not super direct.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the book, I thought she was his sister or a cousin or something. And
this is the change that I think fixes like
everything. Yeah.
Pretty much everything that I had an issue with in the book.
It makes both her and Rory more sympathetic. It makes Julia and Frank worse because of how they, or at least Frank, how he tries to treat Kirsty.
It gives you that traditional evil stepmother vibe.
Yeah.
As a relationship between Kirsty and...
It's an overused trope, but it works.
Yeah. It was also kind of a thing in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Like, step-parents are kind of treated better these days.
Yeah, in media. I remember the best parent and The Only Good Indians was the stepdad, who was also like a DNR officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Larry, or Rory, who is played by Andrew Robinson.
He looks like the guy you set up for.
Any scene he was in, I had trouble taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Because Andrew Robinson plays one of the most iconic fan favorite Star Trek characters of all time.
Yeah.
And I saw this movie back in my 20s before I was into Star Trek. And then I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, it's Garrick from Deep Space Nine. Who is, do you know what Kardashians are?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. Now see, I recognize that, like, I recognize the look.
Okay, so...
They have the little vaginas on the head.
They're spoons. They're called spoonheads. That's the derogatory term.
I'm going to call them cunt heads.
I mean, that's not what a vagina looks like. So, the basic premise of Deep Space Nine is a space station that was operated by the Kardashians, and they left it, and the Federation took it over. All of the Kardashians left except for one, who's Garrick, who owns a little shop. He's a seamstress, and he owns this little shop in the space station. And the whole thing about his character is is he a Kardashian spy, and that's the reason why he stayed, so he can spy on the Federation, or is he actually a Kardashian exile? He's also super flamboyantly gay.
Huh.
And he's a fan favorite character, and he kind of took me out of the parts that Rory were in.
They should have just made him look like this.
Yeah.
For the whole movie.
But it's still I love the actor, and he did a good job. It was just my flashing back to Deep Space Nine that kept throwing me out of it.
I think the performance was good. He struck me as a dude who's trying his best, but
he's also, well, I'll save this for scary shit, but he was the two scenes that I had the biggest reaction to were both scenes that he was in.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So.
Okay,
and then a couple new characters before we talk about the Cinnamon Bites. We've got Steve, the boyfriend, played by Robert Hines.
And he looks like somebody that I'd be perfectly willing to hook up with.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine. And
yeah, he's okay.
I'm not going to get too deep into Steve, because if I do, it's going to get me into my my Koontz.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of Steve?
To show up at the end.
Okay. Never mind.
That is one of those, we need this to be more like an American horror movie things. I don't know that for a fact, but I feel that that's something that Clive was probably pushed into.
Yeah.
You have to have a guy show up at the end and
try to save
the woman out.
Yeah. Yeah. A little cringy, but we'll talk more about that. And then the more interesting of the new characters is the derelict, or the cricket eater, played by Frank Baker.
Yeah.
What's up with that guy?
I think he was supposed to originally be the idea of what the engineer was, just wandering around, shows up at the end, and at the end of the book, and gives Kirsty the puzzle box again, and then wanders away. Mm-hmm. I think that's what was going on. He was following around the puzzle box, or people that were connected to it.
I took it the other way. I took it to be he was an actual angel, and he was watching over Kirsty, and he assumed a foul form to hide his actual angelicness.
Okay, I mean, I don't think we can say one way or the other, really.
Let's just Google the derelict in Hellraiser. I mean, that would, and like you said, that's just my reading on it.
Yeah.
The Puzzle Guardian. So yeah, there you go. It's what you said.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Derelict, the Puzzle Guardian.
And turns into a skeleton dragon.
He turned into a skeleton dragon?
Kinda, yeah. I mean,
when did that happen?
Turns into a demon-looking thing at the end. I always called it a skeleton dragon.
I'm gonna be honest. I got so pissed the last 15 minutes of that movie.
Yeah.
I totally shut off.
Yeah, he walks into the fire, picks up the puzzle box, turns into that thing, and flies away.
I don't remember that at all.
Hey, it's a skeleton dragon.
Okay, yeah, that guy's definitely not an angel.
Yeah.
As soon as the boyfriend showed up in the house, I was like, "This is so stupid," and I think I stopped paying attention. The Cinnabites, or the cinnamon bites, as we've been calling them, or I've been calling them. We've got the lead, the Hell Priest, Pinhead, whoever, Doug Bradley. We've got the chattering Cinnabite, played by Nicholas Vince, the female Cinnabite by Grace Kirby, and the Butterball,
The
Cinnabite, played by Simon Bamford.
the original name for the female Cenobite was Deep Throat,
Oh,
and they wouldn't let Clive Barker put it in the credits.
for political reasons or for crude reasons?
Put a gaping vagina in her throat.
I guess I'm gonna have to Google a picture of the female Cenobite because I don't remember. I swear I watched this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Deep
Okay.
Throat.
I guess my mind just goes to Nixon.
I love the random threads of hair on her head.
I hate it. It's so gross. It's so Gollum.
Yeah, that's why I like leaving us so soon. I like all the Cenobites. I think that giving one Cenobite most of the good lines from the book was also a good decision, which is what drew a lot of focus to Pinhead,
Yeah.
making him sort of an icon of the series.
Yeah.
So instead of having a bunch of different Cenobites showing up to say other things, they're no, we'll just give it to one central one and kind of surround them with other ones.
I like that there was a small number of them.
Yeah.
We may be discussing another movie, or we will be discussing another movie where there was maybe too many of them and got a little distracting with a new cinnamon bite popping up every 20 minutes.
You should see some of the names for some of them.
I think I did look on the IMDb page.
The Chattering Cenobite's a fan favorite. I really like its design.
I think it's super creepy. Just that.
And there's a form of the Chatterer in almost all of the movies.
Yeah.
Oh, and that thing's supposed to be the engineer in this movie.
That was another thing that I was like, okay, so the boyfriend showed up, and now they're trying to escape, and he's trying to save her, and now there's a giant walking fetus with teeth.
Yeah, that was supposed to be quote unquote the engineer. I would have cut that and just kept the hobo.
I would have just done the exact same end from the book if it were me. But I'm sure you're right. That was probably a studio thing where they wouldn't want him to do that. I'm not knocking it as a practical effect.
It looks good.
Yeah, just as a story.
In the hospital, chase her around, and then shows up again.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. It does show up in the hospital. This was.
I love how wet everything looks in Clive Barker movies.
Poor Wicked Witch. Okay.
Look at Butterball. He's like,
yeah. He's definitely like the Bill.
oh, look, he has a gun.
So, Pinhead is Hank, Chatter is Dale,
Yeah.
Butterball is Bill, and then I guess
That's Boomhauer.
by default the female.
It does have a weird voice.
Kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Okay, jumping into scary shit. Is this movie scary?
I think there's parts of it that are scary. It's not as scary as I remember it being. I think it would probably scare me more if I wasn't so desensitized to horror these days.
Yeah, I think if I saw this movie when I was like 10, it would have scared the shit out of me.
I'd say 10 to 13 is a good range.
Yeah. I remember when I watched it originally, like, not really being scared, but having, like, big reactions to it.
I think the thing that scares me the most, and it still did this time, or it unnerves me anyway, is Kirsty's dream sequence, where all the feathers are falling down, and there's just a child screaming and wailing in the background, and there's a person breathing heavily under the sheet, and it just starts to bleed more and more and more. Because that's exactly what all my dreams are like.
I've never had any kind of dream like that, so.
Yeah, well, I have these very pervasive nightmares, and a lot of them are like that. So it unnerves me when I see it on screen.
So the two things that, not so much scary, but I had, like, the closest to being scared was the fucking kitchen with all the cockroaches and the maggots. And then just when Larry rips his hand open on that nail.
Yeah, because that's a very real thing that can happen to us.
Yeah.
I had to get a tetanus shot last year because I ripped my finger open on a rusty part of my inner couch. Like somehow my hand dug into my couch while I was sleeping, and when I pulled it out, it scraped right down along there.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Because I was still sleeping at the time, and all of a sudden I wake up screaming.
I would definitely put this as more of a gross horror movie. Like, you got the maggots, the cockroaches, the slicing the rat in half, the part where they puke up maggots, fucking Frank nailing dead rats to the wall, lots of stuff like that.
The molesty vibes.
Yeah. Lots and lots of molesty vibes. Have you read The Bone Farm yet?
Yeah, I finished it today.
I feel like Frank is a lot like Jack in The Bone Farm. They're very similar. I did not mean to schedule those two books together, but
there's some decent parallels.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. That was a total happy coincidence.
Like a spoiler, even the crazy voodoo shit that Jack starts believing is something that Frank is chasing.
Mama Day says if you wear one watch on one wrist and then another on the other wrist and it's going backwards, you will live forever.
I kind of want to do that. I want to make that my look.
We are going to make this house outside of time. You and me, brother, we will live forever. Okay, Rock. That's next time.
It's going to be a good episode.
It is.
I think so.
That book is fun. Okay. What about the Cenobites themselves? Are they scary?
They would terrify me if they were an actual thing.
Yeah.
On screen, I felt... Again, I'm super desensitized these days.
They're a little too out of left field to be really scary.
Yeah.
But yes, obviously, if they showed up in my house, oh my god,
and were making my walls bleed or changing walls around,
my mind would break.
It's very Silent Hill-y.
Yeah, which is why I kind of wish I saw this movie when I was younger, because I do think I wish I would have seen this when I was young and developed a complex about Cenobites, but.
Yeah, well, then you would have just ended up with my sexuality. So.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Kiss me, fat boy!
Kiss me, fat boy. I have a question. The whole, the big thing is, the line between pain and pleasure. That's the whole Cenobites thing. Mm-hmm. Where's the pleasure? All I see from the Cenobites is pain.
The only thing I can say is it must be somewhere between all the women who ask me to slap them across the face. I don't understand it. That would not work for me in the bedroom. But I know women and I know guys who just want to be hurt. And this kind of expresses that.
Yeah, okay.
The Cenobites are all look how fucked up I made myself.
Totally fucked up.
It's a weird example, but when people do a bunch of body modifications, super big gauges.
Yeah.
They're not piercings, but when you put stuff underneath your skin, there are people who put brass knuckles underneath their skin. There are people who do that and wear leather everywhere, and they're basically doing a smaller version of what the Cenobites are doing.
Yeah.
So it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not our thing.
Yeah, no.
So there's pleasure there, I just don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I always took that kind of stuff and just, something as simple as tattoos and piercings as just, it's a form of control over your own body. It's my body, I have the choice. It's something that I have control of and only I have control of.
There's an element to that, but there's also people who want to feel out of control, and people who want to feel in control of someone else, and that's the Cenobite, not Cenobite dynamic.
That
slave master.
Tattoos are a huge theme in Dan Brown's The Last Symbol. It's the third Robert Langdon book. The villain is covered from head to toe in tattoos. He has no real negative space on his body, and it's all tied back to I don't know what tradition, because I haven't read that book in a long time, but ancient traditions where tattoos are used as spells, and he would like put.
Mama did it. I put these tattoos on my skin. I will live forever.
I love you, Dean Koontz. I love you so much.
What's our Koontz and our Koontz?
No, for that episode, we're gonna flip them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, when we review Dean Koontz books, the Koontz is the good one and the King is the bad one.
Okay, that's
just
fair.
for those episodes.
That's fair.
Okay. If you haven't seen our schedule, we are reviewing The Bone Farm by Dean Koontz in like 2 weeks from when this releases.
It seems like we liked it.
Or no, 1 week. 1 week. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Spoiler
I do
alert.
too.
Yeah. Okay, I knew you would like it. Okay.
Where were we at?
In terms of sex, do you think that movie is not as sexed up as the book, or just the right amount, or
It's about the same, because the only thing that they could have added is, like, images of Frank, like, fucking a bunch of whores trying to, like, chase that dragon.
but there literally were images
yeah.
of Frank fucking. But you mean like flashbacks?
Like flashbacks
Yeah.
and stuff, and like that photo album's okay. That's about the only thing you could add for that, but I don't think it was necessary.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get that across with Julia and Frank's flashback, and how she does come across. I will say this for the actress, she did sex starved very well. Like,
I don't know why, because Larry wants it all the time.
I just don't think he's good at sex. I
Yeah.
think she's been faking orgasms for years.
Or it's not so much skill, it's just that they have different wants.
Yeah, she wants something more along Cinnabons,
Yeah.
and he just wants to do missionary.
Or, I mean, he wants to do like missionary one night and then maybe doggy the next night, and then you know.
It's Tuesday. That's when we flip the coin.
Yeah.
You know.
But then there's we're not.
But she does she does do that sexually frustrated pretty well.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Okay, so moving on to The Power of Christ Compels You. So where does the title Hellraiser come from? I know, like you said in the last episode, you don't think that the Cenobites have any kind of ties to Christian theology, but that title...
I think that was a title that he came up with because they wouldn't let him name the movie Sadomasochist from Hell, which is what he wanted to name it, which would still include hell. He had like a mythology planned in his head for a series of movies, and you get some of that in the first sequel. Like, you get to see the god of the Cenobites, which is a giant diamond that just shines light across hell, called the Leviathan.
You will become the Leviathan configuration.
And like, his plan was Julia was going to become like the queen. She was supposed to become the main villain of the series. She was going to go to hell, come back as the hell priestess. But that got scrapped because Pinhead was popular.
And this is just more of a generic hell, generic afterlife than like a Christian specific one.
Yeah. Aside from the book where Kirsty speculates that there might be boxes that lead to better places. That's about the only connection I can really see.
Okay.
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into Kings and Koontz. Daniel, what is your king?
My king is the nightmare sequence because it's still the one thing in this movie that freaks me out.
And mine is just the Cenobites. Just the look, the music, just them appearing, and how it just scares the shit out of anybody in the room. The only thing I remembered from when I saw it originally, and when I'm gonna wait so many years, and it'll be the thing I remember in my mind. They're just iconic. They're so cool. And then your Koontz.
The boyfriend coming in at the end.
Yeah. Same. It's just, I'm sure, like you said, he was just like forced to put that in there from the studio, but it's so bad.
I didn't mind him exist as being someone to flirt with.
No, like all the stuff in the first half of the movie was fine.
Why did he show up? Like,
because he's got a penis.
Yeah, my penis is telling me a woman is in danger.
Yeah. Which I'm not saying that you shouldn't rescue women, guys. I'm just saying
that didn't make any sense. Like, how did he know?
Yeah, my penis sense is tingling.
It would have been one thing if he would have been with her at the hospital or something and then gone looking for her. I think they might have mentioned him being at the hospital.
He does show up at the hospital and find out that she left. So it's logical that he would go to her dad's house to look for her, but it's still just it
strikes me as super Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's very Dean Koontz. Let's get married and go get have a honeymoon in Hawaii.
Yeah. You're not wrong. That's Dean Koontz loves happy endings. He goes out of his way to write them. And then
which is why I love The Bone Farm, because it's not. It's still kind of a happy ending, but it's so much more dour.
There's one Dean Koontz book where he literally has a dad go back to his rebellious teenage son in the epilogue and destroy all his rock and roll albums because he's making his son a nihilist. And when I read it, I was like, man, I gotta get Ryan to read this.
That's funny. Yeah, we'll do that one. Okay, ranking. Let me just pull up our rankings here real quick. I already added it, so I didn't have to and ah while we were recording.
Yeah.
I put it as my new number 6.
It's not bad.
Below The Mist and above the 2 Mermaid Saga OVAs. So the only things that I rank above this is the It miniseries, Dog Soldiers, Call Girl of Cthulhu, It Chapter 1 in The Mist, which...
That's some steep competition.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And here's your list.
I'm going to put it... Oh, let me see here. I'm going to put it right... Fuck. Now I'm actually... It's not above The Mist. It's not above Dog Soldiers.
No.
It's not above Call Girl.
No.
It is above Firestarter, but is it above it? I think I'm going to put it right below it.
So that makes it your number 5.
Yeah.
So we're right there in the same ballpark.
I think it's close. If you ask me on a different day, I might rank it above it. But I think it scared me way more as a child.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's also way more accessible.
Yeah.
In terms of something you can show to other people.
It is so easily relatable to almost anyone.
Yeah. Hellraiser's super relatable to me, but
I think
I'm a little fucked.
If we were doing like a top 10 80s horror movies, Hellraiser could probably be on that list.
It could probably walk away with some awards.
Yeah. But in the grand scope of everything we've covered, just saying that it was an adaptation that we both enjoyed is probably an award in of itself, because so much of this stuff is not very good. Homework. How would you clean that kitchen?
I have cleaned a kitchen that looked pretty much exactly like that.
Oh my god.
So
no.
A lot of bleach, thick gloves, and a mask. One of my friends, their partner's father was a hoarder, and he had to move out, and we had to get the house cleaned in like 2 days, which involved us using a chainsaw on a couch to cut it up into pieces to throw into a dumpster. And
I did that.
Cleaning literal like piles of rat turds out of a fridge. And guess whose job? Well, it wasn't my job, but guess who was cleaning the kitchen? It was Daniel. So
I would.
There was dead bugs. Luckily, I didn't find any dead rats. But I did come across some maggots.
I would clean that kitchen with fire.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
A lot of bleach, a lot of perseverance, and elbow grease.
Gross. Yeah. Okay, and our question for the listeners, please reach out to us on our socials, which you are about to hear, and let us know, is slicing rats in half foreplay? And then if you liked Hellraiser the film, what are some other movies you would recommend?
Hellraiser 2.
Yay!
You'd probably get something out of a lot of the sequels. I think most of them are kind of garbage, but there's something in there for...
I will probably watch them all at some point, but it's not going to be a priority for me personally.
We might maybe do bonus episodes on them, or small react. The Silent Hill movie, I don't really like the Silent Hill movie, but it has a lot of the similar things. I'd say play the games instead. There's a lot, especially 2, has a lot of this like psychosexuality.
And The Bone Farm by Dean Koontz, which we are reviewing next week.
It basically just has Frank in it.
Yeah. And if you are an Audible member, it's free.
Yeah.
So there's no reason not to.
I got my Audible back last night so I could listen to it. And now I've downloaded our next few books.
Nice. Okay, so upcoming on the Horror of Babylon next week, we're reviewing The Bone Farm. And then we will be back on Hellraiser for the last week of November. We are reviewing Hellraiser 2022. And then first week of December, we will be doing Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I think we also got a couple fun little bonus episodes on the back burner.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of
some prizes to hand out.
Yeah, yep. We've got some of those to do for sure.
Yeah.
So you just follow our socials, which you're about to hear, and you will be caught up on all that. You can also join our Discord server where I have the schedule posted. I should also post it in the Facebook group and pin it to the top of the group.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll try to do that. I'll try to remember to do that. Woo. All right. Thanks for watching Hellraiser, and thanks for recording with me.
Anytime, Ryan.
Okay, everybody stay scary.
Stay scary.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. Follow Daniel at DStarSick on Twitter. Follow Ryan at Darth Damio on the Bluebird app. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.